Hey, everybody. Glad you're back. So, today I talked to my friend Yvonne, who is an author and also has started her own publishing company. So, I asked her lots of questions about that, how she got into that process, and what she does to help people with publishing. We talked about her book, we talked about homeschooling, we talked about parenting, we talked about the weather, we talked about a lot of things. So, I thank you for coming and listening, and I hope you enjoy. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Shara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so happy to see
Good
your
to
face.
see you.
It's
Yeah,
been a little bit, a few weeks, I guess.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a
Um,
pleasure to be here.
well, thank you very much for talking to me. So you had a Facebook post the other day that kind of intrigued me because I don't know anybody that hasn't felt the way that you talked about in that post, but you said that a year ago or however long it was, you looked in the mirror and you did not like what you saw. And it wasn't even so much physical as just where your life was at that point. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that led you to do?
Sure, sure. Well, I've raised four kids. I homeschool four kids. And after that, I went into the workforce, but I felt a lack of confidence.
Yeah,
I didn't really realize my own value.
right.
And that just led me down the road that to the point a year or so ago where I looked in the mirror and I thought, who is this person? I don't even know who I'm looking at.
Yeah,
And so that led me on a journey. I decided to do some things that inspired me. And one of those things I always wanted to do was to write a book. So I started on a writing journey and started writing a book. But still, I realized the lack of confidence and the value that where I lacked confidence and value, I realized it was coming from a place of not really loving and appreciating who I was created to be
right.
and not living in that.
Yeah,
And so I was scrolling through YouTube one day and accidentally clicked
right.
on that book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It.
Yeah,
And when I listened to it, it gave me a lot of really great practical
right.
information
Yeah.
on things you could do, mirroring techniques and things you could do to help stimulate that in your mind
Right.
so that you could live your highest potential.
Yeah.
And it also led me down the road of, you know, in the Christian walk, a lot of people we feel like loving yourself is something that's like vain
Right.
or it's narcissistic is a
Yeah.
big word going around right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what I learned was that it's a lot like, and I use the book I wrote was a parenting book, and I use this
Uh-huh.
illustration when I talk to parents. It's a lot like being in an airplane and the oxygen, they tell you if the oxygen
Right.
mask drops, you put it on
Yeah.
yourself first and
Yes.
then others later.
Yes.
You can't help anybody else
Exactly.
until you've got the right oxygen. So loving who you've been created to be, the
Right.
shadow parts of you, as well as the beautiful parts of you,
Right.
gives you that oxygen, that gives you that overflow
Yeah.
that you can then give to others. So
Yeah.
the scriptures say, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what
Right.
Jesus said.
Yeah.
And so many times you hear it, but you don't really realize, or I didn't really realize, loving your neighbor as yourself. So I
Mhm.
can't really love my neighbor.
Right.
I can only love my neighbor to the capacity that I can love myself.
Right.
I can only forgive my neighbor to the capacity that I can forgive myself.
Yeah.
And so it just brought on all of these aha moments. And
Right.
in that, I finally had that dawning
Yeah.
of walking in confidence in who I am.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your book. It's a parenting book. Are your kids all grown now?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
I have four children. My
Mhm.
baby is 24,
Oh,
and yes, and my oldest is 37.
oh my
So
goodness. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I homeschooled all of them. And the book is called Positive Parenting for Raising Kids.
Uh-huh.
And it's basically what I learned in the 25 years that I homeschooled about parenting, taking care of myself,
Yeah.
self-awareness, self-reflection, behavioral things that I learned, helping my kids learn how to self-regulate,
Right.
and also then the value of play and the value of connection through
Yes.
their teen years,
Yeah.
and how we communicated and connected through those years has made us really close family
That's
now.
awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. I homeschooled my boys for about 4 years, and it's work. I mean, to stay on top of things, to make sure they're not, my biggest concern was that they would fall behind if they ever went
Yes,
back to school, which they did go back to school. Thankfully, they didn't fall behind, but that's, to stay on top of it, you got to really you have to be good at time management. You have to be able to, you know, just stay on top of all of their subjects, and it's a lot of work.
it is. There's a lot to being mom and
Yes, and teacher.
teacher and
Yeah,
principal and all of that.
yeah. But there's a
But
lot of benefits to it too. Having
there
them
is,
around.
you can hire experts
Yeah,
where you're weak. And I
yeah.
did that often. I hired artists or come in and teach art, or
That's awesome.
one of my daughters wanted to learn sign language for
Oh,
her foreign
wow.
language. So
Yeah,
I hired somebody to come in and teach that. And
that's
lo
great.
and behold, as an adult, she works with adults with special needs. And so
Wow.
it was kind of, you can really hone in on your kids' giftedness when
Yes.
you school,
Yeah.
and help them in those areas to grow in those areas where they're gifted.
Yeah. Our youngest has special needs, and he was home from half of fourth grade through eighth grade. And I remember the summer before his ninth grade year, I really felt like the Lord was telling me he needed to go back to school. And I was just ignoring, I don't hear that. I don't hear that, because it scared me to send him back. And I didn't even tell my husband. And one day in that summer, he came to me and he said, I think he really needs to go back to school in the fall. And I was like, dang it. That means I really do have to send him back. But it ended up being wonderful. It ended
Yeah,
up being a really, I mean, he needed it. He needed what I could not provide for him at home.
right.
Socially is where he lacks the most, and he needed that. And so it ended up being wonderful, but it scared me.
Well, I went into homeschooling with the concept that I would evaluate each kid every year. It,
Yeah,
it wasn't that I'm going to homeschool and we're going to homeschool from here to
right.
the end. It
Yeah,
was, what do they need every year? What do they need mentally, physically, academically,
yeah.
emotionally, spiritually? What do they need? And every summer, my husband and I would go away for a few days and do these evaluations with the
Hmm.
kids and what we knew and where they were. And my older two when they were in high school, went into a private school
Uh-huh.
in high school. My third child, she went into public school as a junior and finished
Okay.
out there. And then my youngest, she was the only one that homeschooled from
Wow.
beginning to end.
Oh, wow.
So, and they all went on to, well, 3 out of 4 went on to get college degrees and a
That's
master's
awesome.
degree. And
Awesome.
um, so, yeah, my oldest, she got her MBA. My son started his own
Wow.
business. My third daughter got her degree in psychology with an emphasis in behavior analysis. And then
My
my youngest
goodness.
has a degree in astronomy and astrophysics. So,
Wow. It's
and
quite a
I am not a
variety.
science person. So,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, my
That's
youngest she
awesome.
would do like pages of math.
Wow. Yeah. That's
So,
not fun.
yeah, not fun, but
No. That's
getting her, like
amazing.
when she got into that high school years, that she
Yeah.
was accepted into the local community college at 15.
Wow.
And so there again, that's where I think homeschooling really
Mm.
benefited us, because I was able to bring in experts where I was lacking
Yeah,
and really help them in their giftedness,
that's
each one of
awesome.
them.
So your book then led you to something, you're doing something as someone who loves to read and someone who has written some books. I think it's a pretty cool business. So tell everybody what you do.
So the process of creating my book,
Uh-huh.
it showed me a lot of what I had to offer people, and that stimulated me because I felt like everybody has a story.
Oh yeah.
Everybody has something they can contribute
Yeah.
to the collective, to the conversation.
Yes.
And the more we have the voices in the conversation and the more we can share,
Yeah.
the better off we all are. And so I
Right.
wanted to start a publishing business so that I could help, anybody else who come alongside them
Right.
and meet people kind of where they are. Some people
Right.
they have the story, they don't have the time. So I
Right.
can meet them where they are. I can, help them with the writing part. I
Yeah.
can help them with the promotion part.
Right.
Some people, they really want to write it themselves, but
Yeah.
maybe need a little coaching in developing
Yeah.
the story. I can
Yeah.
also do that.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm pretty excited.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to continue to write my own books,
Yes.
but so I just find a lot of value in that journey for myself,
Right.
and just feel like, the more voices we have in the conversation, the better the conversation
Yes. Absolutely.
collectively. So
Absolutely. So
that
how
has,
does that work for you? Do you have a place where people can go online to find you and request
well,
help, or how does
right
that work?
now it's all brand new and in the works.
Okay.
So I'm working on websites and things like
Okay.
that. But also my Facebook page. Connecting with me on
Okay. On
Facebook
Facebook's
would
probably
be a
easy.
great place. And then
Okay.
Amazon, you can read a little bit of my author bio there.
Okay.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I've written five. They're all, well, four of them are for kids. They're very small. The other one was our journey with autism. And it would have been wonderful to have somebody with me. I mean, I had different people I would ask to help, but nobody, it was all friends and family and people that I knew. So it would be wonderful to have somebody right there with you, kind of bouncing ideas off of you and, seeing somebody that's professional, seeing what they think and their opinion. And
Well, and the other thing is it's one thing to write your story, but to get it out there, especially in this day and age, in the
right,
technology age, you have to know how to get your book on page one
right.
of Amazon or
Yeah,
any of the other big search engines for books.
right.
And that is a process that I have learned and can help people with,
That's
as well
very
as,
good.
there's still the traditional methods of
Right.
speaking and book shows and things like
Yeah.
that. But right now, the quickest thing, it's one thing to write a story, but to get it to where people see it and buy
Right.
it, you have to get that done. And I figured that out, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of that. I didn't do any of that. There are things that I wish I had done differently when I wrote those books. I did have an incredible illustrator for three of them, and they're short and written in rhyme and they're cute, but she's incredible. She's a tattoo artist, but she's so good at what she does, and so she did these great illustrations for it. But I'm learning to not be so hasty in my decisions and just do things so fast. And I wish I had taken more time on all of my books.
Well,
If
you
I
can
do it
always,
again, I think
yeah,
I'll.
or republish, maybe
Yeah, I've
republish
thought
some of
about
those.
that. I met with a life coach for 6 months who she was a writing coach, but we didn't talk about writing. It was really life coaching that was supposed to help me with my writing, but it helped me in a lot of different ways that eventually I think I'll write again, but it helped build my confidence more to be able to do this. So I'm thankful for it, even though we didn't talk about writing. I learned a lot about what I can do differently next time.
Well,
So,
and that's the same way with me. I learned a lot with my first book,
yeah.
and I actually published a much smaller book a year ago, and
Uh-huh.
it was my first one. But I've since taken that one down to redo
Okay.
it because it was
Yes.
small. And
Yeah.
then this is my second one. But I was a nervous wreck, and before I hit publish. That's
Yes.
how, because it's a piece of yourself, right? You're
Absolutely.
putting out there, and there's going to be people that love it, and there's going to be people that hate it.
Yes.
And coming to terms with, this is just where I am and what I
Right.
know. And hopefully it'll be of value to other people.
Right.
And then realizing that it is
Yeah.
is, really great, is really a lot
Yes.
of fun to discover.
Right. And your
Yeah.
book, I think, would be such an encouragement to parents who are homeschooling and, wanting to do that, maybe just starting out and feeling a little bit overwhelmed and scared, to
Well,
start.
actually, I wrote the book for any parent.
Yeah.
I wrote it, I added things in it, or put the things in it that any parent can use, whether their kids are homeschooled or
Yeah.
going to public
Oh, that's
school,
awesome.
because it's focusing on connection, family
Right.
connection, and
Right.
balance.
Yes.
Um, Read aloud time, how you can get
Yeah.
the most out of reading out loud to your kids,
Yeah.
how you can get the most out of connecting through a mealtime,
Right.
how kids learn through free play.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to have all the newest bells and whistles. As a
Right.
matter of fact, they learn so many lessons from free play,
Mm-hmm.
and how parents can support that.
Right.
So it's got all of the elements that I felt like were the most valuable things. Even though we
Right.
homeschool, they can also be used by parents who send their kids to public school.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to recommend that too. I know lots of people I can recommend that too. So
Well, there's a lot of two income families, a lot of
yeah.
people where they're very, very busy, and I wanted to be able to help them maximize their time.
Right.
And it's definitely beneficial to homeschoolers, but it can be
Yes.
beneficial to working families too.
That's great. I love, so we have two granddaughters that come out here about once a month. And my daughter's been so good about, she only lets them have the iPad once a week and they get it for, a short amount of time, but that's all they get. And I love that. I'm so proud of her for doing that. But when they come here, they have the iPads. But my favorite thing is that they love to be outside. They just want to play in the
Yes.
dirt. Their favorite thing is to get filthy dirty and let me squirt them down with a water hose. They think that's wonderful. So the most time we can spend outside away from any kind of screen, I feel like is a win. It's a good thing.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, the screens are part of our lives.
Right. They just are.
And the kids coming up, this generation coming up, they need to know how to use them and so forth.
Right.
But that time
Yeah.
outside, the time playing, and they learn how to negotiate. They learn how their bodies, what their body's limits are. They
Right.
learn how to compromise.
Mhm.
There's so many life skills that you don't even think about
Yeah.
when you play. You learn balance, you learn uh, all kinds of things. When I worked at the Children's Museum, we had
Oh,
what
yeah.
was called Adventure Playground. And basically, it's when I was a kid, it was where you took a bunch of the junk laying around the house and you went out
Mhm.
into the woods and you built a fort.
Oh, wow.
So we had all of these miscellaneous things at the museum, and the kids would come. It was spring break. They would come and they would just build whatever.
Yeah.
And there were hay bales, there were sticks, there were all kinds of things. And this toddler was climbing up on these three hay bales, and he crawled up there, and then he stood up,
Oh,
and it
gosh.
started to shake.
Yeah.
And the mother was like, and I went, wait. And so what he did was, that little 2-year-old self-regulated. He realized, oh, I'm not safe standing up.
Yeah.
The balance is off. He lowers his body
Wow.
to the hay bale and then crawls backwards off of it. And
Wow.
if she would have rescued him,
Yeah.
he would not have learned that lesson.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yes, so it's just multiple things like that kids will learn and
Right.
need to learn
Yeah.
um, for their adult life. So
Well, I'm excited for your new venture with your business. I'm excited to learn, how that's going to go. And who knows, I may be calling you up one day needing your help for my
well,
next book.
please do. I would love to.
I
Any way
will.
I can support you in that, I would love to do that.
I probably will because I will need help. I know that. And I know writing is not completely out of the question again for me. This was just something that was a desire of my heart for a long time. And it was one of those things, like I've said about my bakery, if I don't try it, then I'm going to kick myself one day for at
That's
least
right.
not trying. So I'm glad I did. A question totally off the subject of what we've been talking about. Did
Okay.
y'all get any of that bad weather last night that moved through? Did it
We got a
up for
little bit
you?
of rain. We like got about half an inch.
Okay.
Um,
It looked
yeah,
like
about
it was
30
moving
minutes
way.
yesterday afternoon.
Oh, okay. So you didn't get any of the bad. We had tornadoes going through,
I
and it was,
heard.
yeah, all of a sudden we were not expecting that. And all of a sudden there's a tornado heading for my son, and then there's one heading for us. And so I'm on the phone and we're, looking at just all of a sudden we were not expecting it. But I was
That
worried because I know y'all got that bad weather. Um, I don't know, a few weeks ago, those
yes, we
tornadoes that
did.
came through.
When I was in Dallas, they
Oh, it
were
was
having
that.
tornadoes
Yeah,
in Little
that's
Rock.
right. It was when we were at the conference.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
not good.
yeah. It was scary.
So, well, I'm glad y'all avoided that last night. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you're all safe.
Yes, me too. I was texting my son. I said, I think, because he's a bachelor and he's, in his 20s. He's not real concerned about tornadoes. Think you have a tornado warning? And he said, I know. I just heard the sirens. He said, I'll be safe. I'm like, okay.
Just don't be
So,
outside trying to
yes,
record it.
yes. So anyway, well, I'm excited for you. I just, as someone who has written books, it's cool to think about
Yeah.
that side of it. I mean, it really is. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for
It's
you.
fun. I've met a few people. I haven't, gotten anybody that's like ready to move now on it,
Yeah,
but
you will.
yeah.
Well, thank you
But
again for chatting with me. I
thank
appreciate
you.
being here. And I'll see your face in a few weeks when we join that thing with Lisa.
Oh yeah, the 4 week thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I said if Emily does it, we're gonna have like a table reunion.
I know.
A
Wouldn't
lot
that be fun?
there. I know. Would be cool.
Uh,
Well, thank you. I hope you have a great day today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Right.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.